Emerging artists are the heartbeat of contemporary art. They bring fresh ideas, bold techniques, and new perspectives that challenge the way we see the world. The names on this list are not just making waves right now. They represent the future of painting, shaping where contemporary art is headed. Sana Shahmuradova Tanska. Sana Shahmuradova Tanska paints like she's opening a door to another world. Her canvases glow with jewel-like colors, deep blues, warm golds, and soft pinks, and figures seem to melt into the space around them. Swans glide, candles flicker, and people appear without fixed gender. Everything feels fluid and gentle. At Art Basel 2025, her work stopped people. Represented by Gunia Novik, those paintings read like small refugees, places to breathe when the world outside feels hard. Critics compare her to Chagall for the dream quality, but her work is clearly her own, modern, inclusive, and quietly healing. What makes Tanska special is the mood. Her paintings don't demand your attention, they invite you in. You move closer and find details that feel personal and hopeful. In a time when so much art responds to crisis by showing violence, she chooses a different language, light, softness, and sanctuary. That choice is what keeps people coming back to her work. It's not just pretty, it's a gentle space people want to live inside for a moment. Justin de Verteuil. Justin de Verteuil makes paintings that feel like distant memories. His canvases read like faded photographs, soft edges, muted light, and colors washed into one another. He paints balconies as places of pause, the thin line between private feelings and the noisy city outside. At Art Basel 2025 with Seas plus Hoke, his balcony series stood out for its quiet power. These small architectural mirrors become emotional thresholds. You look out, you look in, and you notice how memory and longing shape what you see. He uses ochre, crimson, and shadow to suggest time passing, not to tell a single story but to hold many small private stories at once. Justin's work sticks with you because it's subtle, it doesn't explain, it remembers. Each painting asks you to bring your own feeling, a lost afternoon, a quiet regret, a small joy, and fold it into the image. That slow cinematic mood is his strength. It's intimate, reflective, and deeply human. Sagarika Sundaram. Sagarika Sundaram builds with fabric the way others build with stone. She dyes felt and silk by hand, then folds, stacks, and stitches them into large walk-in shapes. Her installations feel like soft architecture, colorful, tactile, and strangely close. At Art Basel 2025, Alison Jacques showed her released form, a 12-meter textile landscape inspired by temple geometry and sari patterns. People could move around and under its folds, feeling color and texture in a new way. The work combines craft and scale, intimate techniques made into something monumental. Sundaram's art matters because it brings touch back to contemporary spaces. In a world focused on screens, her work asks you to consider surfaces and weight, craft and labor. It also connects to tradition, weaving, dyeing, and pattern, while pushing those skills into new sculptural forms. The result is both playful and serious, a reminder that materials carry memory and that textile can shape how we move. Monilola Olayemi Ilupeju. Monilola Olayemi Ilupeju makes work that feels loaded with history. She brings materials that carry family meaning, bricks, cowhide, found wood, and turns them into installations that tell personal and political stories. Her work is both home and argument. At Art Basel 2025 with PSM Berlin, she split her booth with a cleaved birch tree. That single act spoke of rupture and repair, family roots, Black diaspora lineage, and the need to dismantle old systems. The materials she chooses are not decorative, they are evidence. They hold memory, labor, and lineage. Ilupeju's pieces ask viewers to feel the link between private life and public systems. You see a used brick and you think of migration, of what gets carried across generations. Her installations study how heritage lives inside objects and how those objects can push us to reflect and act. Her voice is urgent, careful, and deeply human. Felix Shumba. Felix Shumba is a maker who remembers what history tries to forget. Self-taught and unflinching, he uses painting, charcoal, and sound to bring erased stories into the room. His work often centers on colonial violence and its long echoes. At Art Basel 2025, Yamek Contemporary showed his installation about a 1977 refugee camp massacre. a charcoal mural of a dusk forest, oil paintings of silhouetted soldiers, and an audio track of archival transmissions and hymns. The combination felt like a public memory made visible and audible. It was a memorial and a lesson. Shumba's power comes from his balance of feeling and fact. He invites viewers to sit with uncomfortable truth, to hear it and see it, without flattening it into spectacle. His art holds grief and resistance together, reminding us that the past shapes the present and asking that we not look away. Armineh Negahdari. Armineh Negahdari draws with urgency. Her charcoal, pastel and oil works show bodies in motion, often torn or twisted, limbs entangled and faces pushed into raw expression. The images are violent, but they are human, an honest response to pain and pressure. At Art Basel 2025 with Marcel Alex, she paired these fierce drawings with biomorphic fabric sculptures. Critics liken that energy to bacon, the same rush of feeling, but Negahdari is doing something of her own. She uses distortion to make emotion visible. The red marks, the frantic lines, the stretched forms all push feeling out into the open. Her work does not comfort, it confronts. By forcing you to face the body under pressure, Negahdari asks you to feel what others often hide. The result is intense, physical, and impossible to ignore. That directness is why her work is gaining attention across the global press. Alexandra Metcalf. Alexandra Metcalf builds small worlds that feel a little wrong, familiar rooms where furniture and objects have been shifted into strange stories. She paints panels, casts bronze furniture, and uses found objects to create interiors that look haunted by memory. At Art Basel 2025, she installed an ominous domestic interior, grandfather clocks, staircases, hooked cradles, and ghostly girl figures. Ordinary household items were transformed into symbols, comfort turned uncanny. The work asks who writes the rules of the home and how those rules shape gender and power. Metcalf's practice is about turning craft into critique. She takes handiwork and household making and flips it so the everyday asks questions about design, labor, and gender roles. Watching her installation, you start to worry about what your own rooms might be saying. That slow unease is precisely the point, and it's what makes her work quietly powerful. Dabin Ahn. Dabin Ahn paints still lifes that feel like quiet prayers. His oils are smooth and calm. Candles, butterflies, porcelain, and small flowers rendered with such care they seem almost photographic. But he doesn't stop at flat picture making. He mounts and frames his scenes into shallow reliefs, adding resin casts and terracotta fragments, so the painting crosses into sculpture. That small shift, letting the edge of the canvas become part of the object, gives his work a meditative weight. People stand close, almost whispering, because the scenes invite slow looking. After solo shows in New York and awards like Pollock Krasner, collectors began to notice. Dabin's paintings feel still but alive. They slow you down. In a noisy world, his work asks for a quiet moment. Light and shadow played out across porcelain and petal, a little altar for everyday wonder. That steady, patient voice is why galleries and museums are beginning to take real notice. Oliver Bach. Oliver Bach builds paintings and sculptures that read like ritual landscapes. He layers oil and wax, then scrapes back to reveal shimmering depths, thin constellations of flowers and floating figures emerging from thick, textured surfaces. His work sits between dream and material fact. He had a breakthrough with a Berlin solo that turned heads in 2024. Since then, people on platforms like Artsy were searching for his work, and museums have started to include him in group shows. Bach's process is physical: build, scrape, reveal, and that labor shows. The surfaces glow with history and myth, like something unearthed from a ritual ground. What stays with viewers is that blend of material and myth. You can feel the hand that made it and the world it points to. A place where life and death mix, where memory is a painted surface you can almost touch. That tension is the pulse of his practice. Juliana Cerqueira Leite. Juliana Cerqueira Leite uses her body as a tool, and the result is sculpture that breathes. She presses, casts, and entwines limbs and movement into materials, plaster, fiberglass, metal, so her works look like bodies growing out of matter. Pieces like Ends 01, Ends 02 feel both fragile and monstrous, mythic and deeply human. Her recent shows in Berlin and recognition from prizes mark her as a major sculptural voice. The work asks you to think about transformation, how bodies and materials reshape one another. When you stand near her sculptures, you feel the imprint of motion, as if a body once occupied the air it now leaves behind. Late sculptures blur boundaries. Human becomes rock, motion becomes form. That material poetry makes her work feel like a ritual of remaking. It's physical, honest, and quietly radical. Sang-woo Kim. Sang-woo Kim makes paintings about looking and being looked at. A former model, he uses oil, acrylic, and a pigment transfer approach to collage close-ups of eyes, skin, and faces into tidy multi-panel works. The result is intimate and direct, stacks of canvases that feel like a mosaic of a person. After viral attention on Instagram, he had major shows in Geneva and London and joined group exhibitions with big galleries. His work asks who controls the image of a person, who sees who is seen, and how identity is negotiated through the camera. The close crops force you into a personal space, and that confrontation is part of the power. Kim's paintings reclaim the gaze. They put the subject back into the frame, making portraiture a site of agency and care. That quiet insistence is what makes his art feel urgent and modern. Coumba Samba. Coumba Samba is young and fearless. She mixes found objects, photography, bright paint, and music to turn ordinary items into political statements. A radiator becomes a comment on energy and dependency. Window blinds holding family photos turn into stories about visibility and family labor. She also makes music, bringing sound into her visual practice. Even at a young age, she staged multiple solo shows across continents and collaborated on an experimental album. That mix of music and object making gives her work a playful surface and a serious heart, color, and rhythm tied to memory and politics. Her pieces feel like small installations that carry big ideas. Samba's strength is transformation. She sees everyday things and reimagines their meaning. The result is fresh, direct work that invites viewers to smile, think, and then look closer. Juliana Góngora Rojas. Juliana Góngora Rojas works with humble, living materials, soil, salt, spider thread, to make installations that slow time down. Her pieces ask you to watch change happen. Grass mats that dry, salt that shifts, subtle textures lit from below. It's minimal work that carries a lot of care. Curators point to her profound care for material and process. In shows like the Sydney Biennale, audiences felt the quiet power of simple elements arranged with patience. Her art sits at the meeting point of ecology, craft, and shared memory. Góngora Rojas makes you notice the small cycles around us. Her practice is gentle but rigorous, minimal forms that open into deeper thoughts about time, community, and the human link to Earth. That focused attention is what gives her work its quiet authority. Orry Shenjobi. Orry Shenjobi celebrates community through color and ritual. Walking across painting, textiles, and film, she documents and represents Nigerian life, from ceremonies to parties, as woven tableau of celebration and memory. At the Venice Biennale 2024, she staged the Wahobe, a vibrant show about Owambe parties, turning loud gatherings into visual archives. Her work is joyful and performative, but it's also about preservation, recording how people come together, how culture is made in the moment. By using flags, textile banners, paintings, and film, she creates layered spaces where memory and ceremony meet. Shenjobi's art invites you in. It says cultural life is something to be lived loudly and kept tenderly. That combination of celebration and care is what gives her work real staying power. Zander Blom. Zander Blom makes paintings that feel like loud, quiet conversations. He works big, huge monochrome surfaces that at first read as black or white fields, but up close are full of texture, scrape marks, and ghostly hints of people and photographs beneath the paint. His process is everything: layer, push, scrape, and reveal. Those surfaces hold memory like a skin. People compare his energy to artists like Matisse or Bacon, but what you notice is a mix of seriousness and sly humor. Some parts look almost brutal, others wink at you with a small figurative detail. That tension between raw gesture and the echo of the human body is his signature. Showing in Cape Town, Amsterdam, and now in New York, Blom's work bridges pure abstract motion with real, bodily traces. It's the kind of painting that makes you want to walk around it, touch it with your eyes, and then think about how paint can hold a life. In short, his canvases are rough at the edges, thoughtful in the middle, and always a little surprising. George Rui. George Rui is a young painter whose rooms feel like someone's private memory made beautiful. He paints lush interiors and figures with a soft romantic touch, velvet light, warm corners, intimate moments that look both lived in and slightly idealized. His canvases attract collectors because they feel like quiet, luxurious secrets. Barely out of art school, Rui was picked up by Hauser & Wirth, one of the world's biggest galleries, which is rare and signals big confidence in his work. Solo shows sold quickly, and private commissions followed. That fast rise doesn't come from hype alone, it comes from paintings that offer comfort and curiosity at the same time. When you look at Rui, you see careful craft, a sense of atmosphere, a love of detail, and a clear voice about how interiors hold emotion. His work asks you to step inside and stay a while. That gentle invitation, paired with strong gallery support, is why he's one to watch. Pam Evelyn. Pam Evelyn paints in color and texture. Her canvases are big fields of layered oil where gestures stack up into living surfaces, thick in some places, scraped thin in others, so the paint itself becomes the subject. The colors are energetic, emotional, and often feel like a direct expression of feeling rather than a picture of something. After finishing at the RCA, Evelyn drew quick attention. A major gallery in London took her on, and one of her early works reached around $100,000 at auction. A sign collectors were paying attention. She's also been shown in major museum surveys, which helps her move from gallery buzz into longer-term recognition. Her paintings ask for a slow look. They don't tell a story with figures, they tell one with marks, layers of thinking, feeling, and doing. That tactile, honest approach is what makes her work powerful and why people keep coming back for another look. Sasha Gordon. Sasha Gordon paints people in ways that feel both intimate and uncanny. Her portraits and still lifes mix realism with small surreal twists. Hands positioned oddly, faces half hidden, objects that carry private meanings. The result is psychological. Her paintings read like scenes from someone's inner life. Gordon rose fast, MFA shows, a museum debut, and then a move into top galleries. Two of her works sold very strongly at auction, which put her on the map for collectors and curators. But beyond numbers, her work matters because it centers emotion and memory through carefully imagined scenes. Her paintings are small dramas. They make you look closely at gesture, color, and composition, and they leave space for your own feeling. That balance of personal story and careful craft is why she's one of the most talked about young painters today. Leilah Babirye. Leilah Babirye carves memory into wood. Fleeing persecution in Uganda, she settled in New York and turned to hand-carved figures that borrow from Ugandan masks, Dogon forms, and found materials. Her sculptures are dark, intimate, and often represent underrepresented subjects with tenderness and defiance. Her small black wood monuments appeared in public gardens and major museum shows, bringing a powerful presence to spaces that don't often hold voices like hers. The works feel like personal altars. Each piece carries history, identity, and survival. Babirye's art is political and personal at once. It refuses erasure by carving and assembling objects that speak to gender, migration, and belonging. When you stand near her sculptures, you feel the life they hold, a steady human insistence that these stories matter. Louis Fratino. Louis Fratino paints quiet domestic scenes that feel warm and intimate. His subjects are often men in private moments, reading, sleeping, sharing space. The brushwork is careful and sunlit. The scenes hold tenderness rather than spectacle. That sensitivity is why his work stood out at the Venice Biennale and why museums have shown interest. Fratino's market strength points to a demand for paintings that celebrate everyday love and closeness. With a solo in Italy and secondary market work selling strongly, his paintings have made a clear place for themselves between emotional honesty and painterly skill. Watching a Fratino feels like finding an old photograph you love, private, affectionate, and full of small details that say more than words. His art invites you to slow down and witness quiet human connection. Karimah Ashadu. Karimah Ashadu makes films and installations that listen closely to the people she films. Her award-winning work follows real communities, most famously, Lagos motorcycle taxi riders catching small gestures, rhythms, and the politics inside everyday life. The film Machine Boys won a major prize at Venice for its sensitivity and craft. Ashadu pairs quiet documentary footage with sculptural objects like a brass wreath that give the work a physical shape as well as a story. Her films move beyond simple reporting. They make space for dignity, complexity, and the unexpected poetry of ordinary lives. With global screenings and a major UK solo commission, she's becoming a filmmaker and artist who centers unheard voices. Her work asks viewers to slow down, listen, and change how they see movement, labor, and youth in cities like Lagos. It's cinema and installation with heart curious, humane, and urgent. Zhu Tian. Zhu Tian is a multimedia artist who mixes performance, video, text, sound, and installation to ask big questions about identity and power. Born in China and based in London, she often builds immersive environments that feel like living ideas, spaces where scenes, voices, and objects loop and echo. Her 2025 project, A Long Defeat, reimagined the Narcissus myth at Art Basel, Hong Kong. Instead of a single self-reflection, she asked how people perform identity under pressure. How social media, work, and markets trap us in repeating cycles. Zhu's work is clever but not cold. It uses theatrical moments to show how systems shape desire and how people respond. You step inside and feel how social expectations tighten around the body. That blend of performance and careful staging makes her work urgent and strangely intimate. Ernie Wang. Ernie Wang sculpts with clay like a storyteller makes a table for a scene. Based in Berlin, he builds ceramic tablescapes and vessels that look familiar, plates, jars, trays, but twisted in playful, surreal ways. These objects read like small rituals, domestic forms enlarged, rearranged, and given a dream logic. At Hong Kong 2025, he showed a tablescape called You, Wanderer, I Know What You Are, that mixed everyday shapes with odd, unexpected details. The work felt like a dinner set from another world, serious about craft but full of sly humor. Wang's ceramics ask us to notice ordinary things again, how we set the table, who sits at it, what we hope the objects will hold. By using a traditional medium in fresh ways, he connects ritual to aspiration and makes the domestic feel ceremonious. Claudia Kogachi. Claudia Kogachi makes colorful sculptures and painted objects that look like playful monsters from a family story. She mixes resin, fiberglass, and paint to build oversized limbs, furniture hybrids, and bright, absurd fragments. Her work feels alive, half figure, half furniture, so that what should be ordinary becomes uncanny and full of meaning. The pieces are funny at first, but they hold a tenderness about how families live, move, and remember. Kogachi's art is friendly and bold. It invites a smile, then asks you to think about belonging, care, and the small gestures that make up daily life. That mix of play and seriousness explains why collectors and venues are paying attention. Michele Chu. Michele Chu makes installation work that stitches tradition to motion. She uses wood, fabric, and craft techniques to build kinetic sculptures, things that move gently and hold memory. Her rocking cradles combine weaving with mobile structures, linking the comfort of handmade objects to shared cultural practices. At Art Basel, Hong Kong, she presented large wood and fabric cradles that rock slowly, referencing childcare, craft, and the movements that shape family life. The work feels like a quiet ceremony, familiar materials arranged to make you notice rhythm, labor, and care. Chu's pieces don't shout, they invite steady attention. They remind viewers that craft is knowledge and that movement can be a way to carry tradition forward. That calm, careful presence is what gives her work both warmth and weight. Nicole Coson. Nicole Coson makes films and installations about memory and identity. Working from the San Francisco Bay Area, she pieces together video, collage, and sound to create spaces that feel half-remembered. Her Membrane series plays with fragments of rooms and people, so the viewer senses time slipping and images overlapping. At Hong Kong 2025, she adapted those ideas for gallery viewers, films, and installations that hold stillness and small shocks. Her work often leaves out care stories on purpose. Instead, it offers moods and gaps and asks the viewer to fill them. Coson's art is quiet and precise. It asks you to slow down, to notice how memory edits what we think we know. That subtle handling of time and intimacy is why critics see her as a distinctive voice reaching local memories and global media. Shin Min. Shin Min builds collage and sculptural installations that talk about power and labor. Using layered photographs and constructed forms, her works look rough and urgent pieces that confront social conflict and human cost. The images overlap and create dense surfaces where stories of oppression and resistance meet. As a Hong Kong Basel Prize finalist, she has used these layered techniques to make political subjects visible without turning them into spectacle. Her installations keep the focus on people's lives, who works, who suffers, and who resists. Shin Min's art feels like a call to attention. It refuses easy answers and demands that you stand with the complexities of contemporary struggle, making the political feel immediate and human. Saju Kunhan. Saju Kunhan paints with memory and family at the center. Based in Mumbai, his work draws from folk stories, personal photographs, and migration histories. Paintings like Wedding Day U3 reframe family photos into wider communal stories, colorful, patterned, and full of lived detail. Represented in prize circuits and growing internationally, Kunhan uses vivid hues and references to craft a conversation between the private and the public. His paintings feel like shared stories. They are personal, but reach for common ground, showing how migration and family shape identity across generations. Kunhan's art is warm, rooted, and richly detailed. It asks viewers to sit with memory as a communal thing, and in doing so, he brings local history into clearer view on the global stage. Johnson Ocheja. Johnson Ocheja is a Nigerian painter who left behind a career path in statistics to follow his true calling in art. That decision alone tells you how deeply he believes in painting as a language. His work often feels like a personal journal on canvas, a mix of memory, identity, and lived experience, layered with emotions you can almost touch. Ocheja's brushstrokes are deliberate but expressive, his tones moody yet full of quiet strength. In 2025, he reached a new milestone with a solo exhibition at AG18 Gallery in Vienna, showing how far his practice has traveled from his beginnings in Nigeria. Johnson's story is one of resilience, and he represents the determination of emerging artists who carve their own place in the art world, even when the odds are against them. Alia Ahmad. Alia Ahmad, from Pakistan, brings a different but equally powerful voice. Her canvases are bold and confident, often merging South Asian cultural motifs with fresh contemporary abstraction. She uses expressive colors and layered forms that speak both to heritage and to the present moment, proving that tradition can live and breathe inside modern painting. Ahmad's recognition has been steadily growing across global exhibitions in 2025, as collectors and curators are drawn to the balance she strikes between the old and the new. She embodies the rise of South Asian artists shaping the future of contemporary art, showing that their voices are not just relevant but vital on the global stage. Thanks for staying with me. I hope these artists stuck with you the way they stuck with me. If one of their names pulled at you, do one small thing: share this video, follow the galleries and artists I mentioned, and leave a comment with which artist you want to see next. That helps them more than you know. If you like the style of this countdown, subscribe to Johnson Ocheja for more deep dives, studio talks, and honest conversations about painting and the people making it. I'll see you in the next video. Bring questions, bring curiosity, and let's keep discovering together.